Hey, what's going on, guys? My name is Jake from TodaysiPhone.com, and I just stubbed my toe while I did that intro thing. Anyway, okay, so the first thing I want to tell you guys about is this week in Germany, Motorola filed an injunction against Apple that basically forced the company to take down all 3G capable devices from their online store except the iPhone 4S because of some hardware difference or something. So that lasted for a couple hours, and then Apple put a stop to it. Now their stuff is back on the online store, and yeah, so that happened. Okay, moving on, I want to tell you guys about a Today's iPhone exclusive story coming from a well-placed source in one of the UK's top independent phone retailers. It took me like 7 tries to say that. So this anonymous source claims to have information that both the next iPhone and the next Galaxy S, which would be the Galaxy S3 I think, will have a Liquipel coating on the inside and outside, making them basically waterproof. Now keep in mind that at this point this is just a rumor, but it would be super awesome just because water damage is one of the most common iPhone afflictions, and it's not really covered under any Apple insurance because it's so common, so it'd be great if customers had a sort of safeguard against that in the future. But like I said before, Apple does tend to make a lot of money from people having to pay to repair water damage since they don't cover it. So it might not be all too practical business-wise for them to give this to us, but only time will tell. Okay, and we move on to a new segment of the show called Things That I Never Ever Thought Would Happen. And this week's thing that I never ever thought would happen is a Blackberry that I sort of kind of want. News of the Blackberry London hit the web this week, and while we don't have much information on the device, we do have a picture as well as the information that it will be running Blackberry 10, which is supposed to be a dramatic shift in UI experience. Now I do have to admit the device looks pretty cool. It's thin, it's sleek, it's got a nice big screen, and if Blackberry 10 is as cool as RAM says it is, which, you know, is sort of iffy, then it could maybe be the first Blackberry that poses a real threat to the iPhone. So I'm genuinely excited to learn more about this device, and hopefully it's not awful. Alright, and we move on to an article I wrote this week asking you guys which rumored Apple device you were most excited for. The Apple HD TV, the iPad 3, or the iPhone 6. And there are a bunch of comments on the article, but none of them really answer my question. All of them are a debate about why the iPhone 6 is called the iPhone 6, or should it be called the iPhone 5 or the iPhone 8 or whatever. So I thought I'd just clarify real quick. The first generation iPhone is number 1. The iPhone 3G is the second generation iPhone. The iPhone 3GS is the third generation iPhone. The iPhone 4 is the fourth generation iPhone. The iPhone 4S is the fifth generation iPhone. So the next iPhone, whatever it's called, will be the sixth generation iPhone, which is why I've been calling it the iPhone 6. If you look at it a different way, the iPhone 4, which is the fourth generation iPhone, had the A4 processor in it. The iPhone 4S, which is the fifth gen, has the A5 processor in it. And in all likelihood, the iPhone, whatever the next one is, will have the A6 processor in it. So it is the sixth generation, regardless of what they call it. I don't think they'll call it the iPhone 5 because it wouldn't really make much sense to call the sixth generation iPhone the iPhone 5. But regardless, that's that. Alright, and finally, I have a couple iPad 3 stories for you guys. The first one comes out of BGR, and they claim that somebody with an iPad 3 prototype contacted them and sent them some pictures of a screen running a debug tool called iBoot with information about the iPad 3. The first bit of information is that there will be 2 versions of the iPad 3, a Wi-Fi only version, and then a version that can connect to GSM, CDMA, or 4G LTE networks, which would be nice. And then the second bit of info is just that it will be running the A6 processor, which would be a quad-core processor, which is also nice. And the second story that I have for you is that the iPad 3 is possibly set to launch in March. This goes against earlier rumors that it could launch in February, and that's because the website that first reported on that is now claiming that Apple will hold an event in February and in March, but the February one is going to be a strange event that is not for the iPad 3, and nobody really knows what's planned for that event, but then the iPad 3 will come out in March. I mean, that's assuming that this information is correct, and there's no way to know if it is, but the iPad is nearing the end of its product cycle, so it would make sense for the iPad 3 to come out sometime around February, March, or April. Okay, well that's all the big news for this week, guys. Thank you very much for watching. Before I go, I want to leave you with a question of the day, and that is, which rumored Apple device are you most excited about? The iPad 3, the iPhone 5, 6, whatever, or the Apple HD TV, or maybe some other thing you've heard about? I know I already asked this, but nobody answered it. And you can let me know in the comment section down below or on Twitter at TIP_Jake. I try to respond to everybody that tweets me, so if you have something to say to me, the best place to do it is there. And please remember that the links to everything I talked about in this video are in the description down below. And as always, for more news, views, and reviews, definitely check out TodaysiPhone.com. There will be two versions of the next gen iPad, a Wi-Fi only version and a Can the iPad not be a virgin? Yep. That was wildly inappropriate.